If an EMP hit right now, 290 million Americans would be in total darkness, no food, no water, no cars, no help, just silence. That's not speculation. That's straight from the Congressional EMP Commission. One high-altitude detonation launched by China, North Korea, or even a rogue satellite could instantly knock out the U.S. power grid for over a year. 911, gone. Hospitals, dark, your bank account, frozen on a dead server, and the scariest part, 90% of Americans wouldn't survive the first 12 months. I'm Zach. I've been in this game since 2012, and what you're about to hear is not what mainstream prepping channels are telling you. These are the 11 critical mistakes nearly everyone makes after an EMP, and exactly what to do instead. If you're watching this, the grid still works for now. But that window is closing. Let's get into it. Number 11. They assume it's temporary, and that's the fastest way to die. Here's the mistake I see almost every unprepared person make. They treat an EMP like a power outage that'll be over by dinner. They sit around waiting for the lights to flicker back on, for the Wi-Fi to reconnect, for the gas station down the street to open back up. But an EMP isn't just a blackout. It's the destruction of the systems that make modern life possible. Power plants aren't just off. The sensitive control electronics are fried. Transformers explode internally. SCADA systems that monitor water, gas, and electricity are cooked. You're not getting rebooted. You're getting reset. According to a 2026 update from the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, the U.S. power grid has less than 3% of the high-voltage transformers needed on standby, and every one of those units takes up to 18 months to manufacture, often overseas. You think Amazon's 2-day shipping is going to fix that? Not a chance. The Department of Defense has confirmed that the average repair time for widespread EMP damage could be between 9 months and 2 years if the country isn't under martial law or worse. So if you're sitting around thinking they'll fix it, you're gambling with your life. Here's what to do instead. From the first 10 minutes, assume it's permanent. That's your survival default. Assume every system you've depended on, electricity, running water, food supply chains, 911, fuel, hospitals, is gone. Because if they're not, great, you just over-prepared. But if they are and you didn't take it seriously from hour one, you're 48 hours behind the curve and won't catch up. Don't waste a single calorie on denial. Every minute matters. Every ounce of fuel, food, and effort must be directed toward long-term survival, not just hanging in until help shows up. Because it might not. The people who make it through are the ones who immediately shift from convenience thinking to subsistence thinking. This is your new world. There is no rescue party. There is no reset button. There's only what you prepare, what you ration, and what you build, starting now. Number 10. They don't understand the real threat. It's cascading failure. Let me be blunt. The EMP isn't the disaster. It's the trigger. What kills you isn't the electromagnetic pulse, it's what happens after. We're talking cascading failures across systems you didn't even realize were connected. Your fridge, dead. Your car, maybe. But that's not even the half of it. When the grid collapses, the entire just-in-time delivery system falls apart. You've got 72 hours max before grocery store shelves go bare, and that's if they weren't already looted in the panic. A 2025 RAND Corporation logistics study confirmed that modern grocery stores carry less than 3 days' worth of food at any given time, and restocking depends on digital ordering systems, trucks with computer-controlled engines, and distribution centers run by AI. All of which, EMP toast. But that's not the only chain reaction. No electricity means no water treatment plants, so sewage backs up within a day, and drinking water becomes contaminated in a week. Hospitals can't refrigerate medicine. Gas stations can't pump fuel. But here's the big one most people miss. Nuclear power plants. Yeah, they don't melt down right away, but without grid power and backup generator fuel, which only lasts a week or two, you're looking at real risk of radiation release if cooling systems fail. And in an EMP that hits across the continent, emergency fuel shipments might not be coming. Want to survive? You need to understand you're not facing one disaster, you're facing 12 at once. Compound collapse. The power goes out. The water stops. The food rots. The streets become lawless. The healthcare system implodes. Then diseases spread and panic escalates. That's what happens when the interdependencies of our modern world unravel. So don't just prep for power loss. Prep for total systemic collapse. Have alternate cooking methods. Store water for sanitation and hydration. Know how to close off your sewer line. Stock up on non-electric tools, paper maps, hand pump sprayers, even chemical toilets if you can swing it. The people who survive aren't the ones with the most ammo. It's the ones who understand that this is a domino chain and they're 5 steps ahead of the next fall. Number 9. They leave their fuel vulnerable. Then it's useless. You know what almost nobody talks about? How fast fuel becomes completely useless after an EMP. You think you've got a full tank of gas in the car and a couple red plastic jugs in the garage? Cool story. Too bad you probably won't be able to access a drop of it when it actually matters. Here's why. First off, modern fuel pumps are all electronic. Even the nozzle triggers are controlled by circuits. EMP fries those. So unless your vehicle is pre-1985 and built like a tank, odds are you're not even driving anywhere. Second, gasoline and diesel go bad fast. Within 3 to 6 months, untreated gasoline starts breaking down. In an EMP event, without refrigeration and sealed storage, even stabilized fuel loses potency within a year. But here's what really catches people off guard. Most folks don't store fuel safely. Those cheap plastic cans? They leach vapor, degrade in sunlight, and build up explosive pressure and heat. And if they weren't kept in a shaded, ventilated spot, they might even ignite when you least expect it. Want to do this right? Here's what I recommend. Store fuel in metal jerry cans, in a shaded, ventilated structure away from your main residence. Add PRIG stabilizer for gas or PRID for diesel. Those extend shelf life up to 5 years if properly sealed. Rotate your fuel every 6 months. And don't forget, manual siphon pumps. If the car's dead, the generator's fried, and the transfer pump doesn't work, you'll need a hand pump to transfer liquid. I keep 3 in sealed plastic separate from my fuel. Also, Big 1 propane is king after an EMP. No electronics, long shelf life, multiple uses. I stock 20-pound tanks like most people stock paper towels. 1 full tank can cook meals for a month if you're conservative. Bonus tip, solar ovens. 0 fuel, 0 risk, just sunlight. A well-built solar cooker hits 300 degrees Fahrenheit in good conditions, more than enough to cook beans, boil water, or even bake bread. Bottom line, don't just have fuel, secure it, stabilize it, access it manually, and practice using it now because after the pulse, there are no second chances. Number 8. They forget medical needs. Until it's too late. Here's a brutal truth. The first people to die after an EMP won't starve and they won't get shot. They'll die from completely preventable medical issues because they didn't prep a single pill. In 2025, the CDC reported that 60% of Americans take at least 1 prescription drug and 25% rely on 5 or more daily medications. Insulin, heart meds, blood pressure regulators, anti-seizure meds, those are lifelines. When the grid goes down and the pharmacies go dark, you've got maybe a week's supply before chronic conditions spiral into life-threatening crises. And it's not just prescriptions. Think about minor injuries, a sliced finger, an infected tooth, a twisted ankle. In a world without ERs or urgent care, those become deadly if you don't have first-line medical supplies ready. I'm talking broad-spectrum antibiotics, wound dressings, antiseptics, painkillers, and medical reference guides you can use without the internet. Ever heard of fish antibiotics? Amoxicillin meant for aquarium use? Yeah, it's the same compound used in human medicine, and many preppers quietly stock it as a last resort. Do your research. Store it smart. Also invest in trauma care gear. Tourniquets, Israeli bandages, hemostatic gauze. The stuff used in combat zones is the stuff that saves lives in chaos. And don't forget hygiene. After the 2010 Haiti earthquake, dysentery and cholera spread like wildfire because people couldn't stay clean. Stock bleach. Know how to dilute it. Stock feminine hygiene products, gloves, masks, alcohol, and baking soda. Learn how to make rehydration salts. Water, sugar, salt, and a pinch of potassium can save someone from dehydration. EMP survival isn't just bullets and beans. It's bandages and baseline care. Do a med audit tonight. What do you take daily? What do your kids need? Now imagine never getting a refill again. Scary? Good. Use that fear to stock up now before every pharmacy shelf is stripped bare and locked behind steel shutters. Number 7. They trust their generator, but it's not going to save you. This one hurts because I see good people spend thousands on a generator thinking they're invincible. I've got power when the grid goes down, they say proudly. But here's the thing they don't realize until it's too late. A generator is a liability if you haven't EMP-proofed it, secured fuel for it, and figured out how to run it discreetly for weeks on end. First off, modern generators are loaded with electronics, digital inverters, automatic transfer switches, fuel sensors. If you didn't store yours in a Faraday cage or line your shed with conductive mesh, odds are the EMP just turned that $2,000 unit into an expensive paperweight. But even if it still works, how long can you actually use it? Most people don't store more than 10 to 15 gallons of gasoline or propane, enough for a couple days, maybe if you run the Jenny conservatively. And here's what they don't think about: noise. In a grid-down world where nobody else has power, a running generator is a giant bullhorn screaming, "Resources here!" I've seen this firsthand. After a hurricane hit my cousin's town in 2022, looters targeted homes with generator hums at night. Want to run a Jenny? You better have sound insulation, light discipline, and armed perimeter security, or you just painted a target on your back. Solar backup is quieter but slower. Hand-crank power banks are good for essentials. My setup: a small inverter generator stored in a galvanized steel locker, fuel stabilized for 5 years, and only used for 30-minute spurts to recharge radios, LED lanterns, and one freezer chest. Nothing more. I don't try to power the whole house. That's not the goal. I use it like a defibrillator: short, critical, silent. And here's the last tip: know how to bypass sensitive electronics in your generator. Old-school units with pull starts and analog meters are your best bet. If you can find one, buy it. If not, get one now and figure out how to protect it, because after an EMP, the guy with the loud generator won't last long and the guy with a silent plan will. Number 6. They don't fortify their food. They just stack it. Everyone thinks they're good because they've got shelves of canned chili and peanut butter. But here's the thing: stacking food doesn't mean you're feeding your family. Food storage without food protection is a false sense of security, and most people don't figure that out until they're swatting flies off open beans and watching their rice turn into a bug hotel. Here's what most folks don't realize: an EMP doesn't just kill the grid, it kills climate control. Your pantry turns into a sauna in the summer, a freezer in the winter, and a breeding ground for mold, pests, and bacterial rot. I've seen basements lose 60% of their dry food because they didn't have sealed buckets and oxygen absorbers. You've got to store like a survivalist, not a grocery shopper. Use Mylar bags inside 5-gallon food-grade buckets, label everything, and toss in a few 300 cubic centimeters oxygen absorbers per gallon of food. For extra protection, add a bay leaf old farming trick. It keeps weevils out. Also, keep your buckets off concrete. Concrete draws moisture and kills shelf life. Use 2x4s or pallet wood to create an air gap underneath. Want long-term food that lasts decades? White rice, pinto beans, rolled oats, wheat berries, pasta, and powdered milk, but only if you store them properly. Rotating stock is another trap people skip. If you don't cycle through your pantry every 6 months, I guarantee something's going bad before you get to it. Write use-by dates in Sharpie, and build your meals now using stored ingredients. You need to learn how to cook with your preps before the lights go out. Ever tried cooking dry beans with no electricity and limited water? It's a whole different ballgame. Oh, and don't forget spices. Plain rice and beans get old fast without salt, pepper, garlic powder, bouillon, and hot sauce. It's not just about calories, it's about morale. Fortify your food supply like it's under siege, because if an EMP hits, it is. And without proper storage, even the best-stocked pantry becomes a pantry of regrets. Number 5. They neglect sanitation and end up sick. This one doesn't get talked about enough, but I promise you, sanitation is the slow killer after an EMP. Everyone's so focused on guns and generators they forget what happens when the toilet stops flushing and you're surrounded by 5 people who haven't bathed in a week. The biggest killer in grid-down situations isn't starvation or violence, it's disease. Typhoid, dysentery, hepatitis. A. Cholera. All those historical killers? They come back fast when sanitation breaks down. After the 2010 Haiti earthquake, the cholera outbreak killed over 10,000 people, and that wasn't even an EMP. That was just a water and sewer system collapse. So what do you do when your toilet stops working? First, disable the main sewer valve if you're on city lines. During power loss, backflow can send raw sewage into your house. You don't want to be ankle-deep in your neighbor's waste. Second, build a plan. Dig a latrine if you're rural, or use 5-gallon bucket toilets lined with heavy-duty contractor bags if you're urban. Add a toilet seat if you can. Comfort becomes a morale booster. Every use gets a handful of sawdust, kitty litter, or ash to reduce smell and break down waste. Store bleach, lime, and antibacterial wipes in bulk. Trust me, you'll use them faster than you think. And don't forget the psychological impact. No sanitation means constant smell, infection risks, skin irritation, and morale collapse. People crack when they feel filthy. I include wet wipes, gloves, and feminine hygiene products in every go bag because these small comforts prevent big problems. Bonus tip, you can make a simple hand washing station using a clean 5-gallon jug with a spigot, a bar of soap in a mesh bag, and a bucket to catch runoff. Keep it outside your main shelter. Last thing you want is to spread bacteria from a minor cut or contaminated water. After a week without proper sanitation, your biggest threat isn't looters. It's a microscopic invader growing in the corner of your own home. Handle this now or pay the price later. Number 4. They fail to think about lighting and go blind at night. You don't realize how much you depend on artificial light until it's gone. After an EMP, when night falls, it falls completely. No streetlights, no glowing screens, no ambient hum from a nearby TV. Just blackness so thick it feels like a weight pressing on your chest. And here's the kicker, most people have no backup light source beyond a couple dying AA batteries and a dusty flashlight they haven't touched since 2017. That's not going to cut it. Light isn't just comfort, it's security, mobility, productivity, and morale. Try cooking in pitch black. Try patching up a wound without seeing what you're doing. Try keeping watch at night when you can't see 5 feet in front of your face. That's how people fall, injure themselves, or get ambushed. What you need is redundant, layered lighting. First layer, headlamps. These are critical. Hands-free light changes everything, especially when cooking, navigating, or repairing gear. Get rechargeable ones that take standard USB inputs and store them in a Faraday cage with a solar battery bank. Second layer, LED lanterns. Preferably dimmable, and with multiple light modes. Set one up in each core area of your home. Third layer, candles and oil lamps. Yes, old school, but they work. Keep long-burning emergency candles and at least 2 oil lamps with extra wicks and clear lamp oil. Bonus points for hurricane-grade glass that won't shatter easily. Fourth layer, solar garden lights. Solar, sounds silly? They charge in the day and you bring them inside at night. No fuel, no batteries. I've used them in real outages, they work and they're cheap. And here's a big one. Red light mode. It preserves your night vision and doesn't attract as much attention. Any flashlight or headlamp you buy should have red mode built in. Trust me, once you've had to leave your house after dark in a blackout, stealth becomes your best friend. Prepping for EMP means preparing to live like it's 1850 but smarter. Get your lighting dialed in now or find out how terrifying total darkness really is. Number 3. They don't secure critical knowledge. Then they're flying blind. When the grid collapses, so does your access to Google, YouTube, GPS, digital maps, medical sites, YouTube tutorials, all of it. People massively underestimate how much knowledge they outsource to their devices. After an EMP, every skill you didn't already know or store physically becomes inaccessible. That means no internet searches on how to purify pond water, no YouTube walkthroughs on starting a fire with wet wood, no way to Google how to splint a broken leg. And this isn't just inconvenient, it's dangerous. In a 2023 Pew Research survey, 93% of Americans admitted to relying on digital sources for basic problem solving. Without access to those resources, you're operating blind. What you need is a hard copy knowledge library tailored to survival. Start with field medicine guides like Where There Is No Doctor and Ditch Medicine. Add Back to Basics for homestead skills, SAS Survival Handbook for fieldwork, and laminated first aid charts for quick reference. Print out manuals for your gear, solar chargers, radios, water filters. You won't be able to search YouTube when your Berkey filter clogs. Keep a paper map of your state and region. GPS isn't just disabled, it's vulnerable to spoofing after a national infrastructure failure. I keep spiral notebooks with handwritten notes on how to make soap, tan hides, cook without fuel, and treat specific medical conditions. I also carry a waterproof notepad for field use. If you've got kids, get hard copies of simple books. Education will keep them sane, structured, and less traumatized. Knowledge is power, but only if you've stored it like your life depends on it. Because one day, it will. Number 2. They wait for authority to take control, and it never comes. This one is devastating because it preys on your good instincts, your desire to follow the rules, obey the law, and wait for someone in a uniform to tell you what to do. But after a high-altitude EMP, there is no cavalry. There is no FEMA truck coming down your street with hot meals. There is no mayor giving updates. Your government, local, state, and federal, is just as blind, deaf, and crippled as you are. Think about it. Every emergency management plan in the U.S. depends on digital communication, functioning transportation, and power. Destroy all three simultaneously, and you're looking at nationwide paralysis. A Department of Homeland Security white paper from 2024 admitted that a coordinated EMP over the continental U.S. would render emergency services ineffective at a national scale for weeks or months. They can't mobilize because their radios, dispatch centers, and fuel networks are gone. So if your plan is wait for help, you're already lost. The first 24 hours are critical. That's when order breaks down, looting begins, and desperation sets in. Police officers have families too. If communications are dead, you think they're sticking around the precinct? No, they're going home. If you haven't built a self-contained response plan for security, for food, for medical, for recon, you're at the mercy of chaos. And here's the dark reality. When the government does return, it won't be your friendly neighborhood council. It'll be the National Guard, possibly under martial law. Roadblocks, curfews, confiscations. You think they're handing out rations to unregistered households? Think again. The 2005 Katrina disaster taught us this. Once the system collapses, what replaces it doesn't serve you. It controls you. I'm not saying don't cooperate with order. I'm saying become your own authority before someone else imposes theirs. Organize your family. Fortify your shelter. Coordinate with neighbors you trust. Establish protocols for defense, for bartering, for recon. Take the lead in your block, your cul-de-sac, your town. Because those who wait to be told what to do in a post-EMP world, they end up following whoever picks up the megaphone, good or bad. Number 1. They think. Survival is about gear, not about mindset. If I could drill one truth into the head of every new prepper, it's this. Gear won't save you. Not your Faraday cage, not your bug-out bag, not your 10,000 rounds of ammo or $3,000 generator. That stuff helps, but it's not what separates survivors from casualties. It's your mindset. Always has been. Always will be. The truth is, when the EMP hits, your first reaction matters more than your supplies. If you freeze, if you panic, if you sit and wait for confirmation instead of acting decisively, you've already given up ground you'll never get back. That's why hardened survivors train not just their bodies and their kits, but their minds. They run drills. They stress test their routines. They imagine worst-case scenarios and walk through the ugly choices, like whether to share food with strangers or how to handle an infected family member. I met a man in 2018 who survived the Venezuela collapse. He said the people who made it weren't the ones with the most preps. It was the ones who adapted fast, stayed calm, and made hard choices early. That stuck with me. Because you can have every prepper gadget in the world, but if you panic when the world stops spinning, you'll waste it. Mindset means discipline. Eating less so your food stretches, sleeping in shifts when you're exhausted, fixing a broken water catchment in the rain at midnight because you know tomorrow might be worse. Mindset means morale, keeping your family from falling into despair, singing with your kids when they're scared, telling stories, holding the line when everything screams for you to give up. It means knowing that this might last months, maybe years, and still getting up every day to fight for the next. And mindset means mental resilience, knowing that no one is coming to save you and making peace with that. Taking responsibility for every decision, every mistake, every victory. That's the difference. That's what will carry you through. The best survivors I've ever met weren't the ones with the most gear, they were the ones with the strongest spirit. The people who said, "This is my world now, I own this, I adapt, I overcome." That's you. Or it can be. If you train your mind, everything else follows. Gear is great, but grit is non-negotiable. You made it to the end, and that already puts you in the top 1%. Most people won't prepare. They'll scroll past videos like this, laugh at the idea of an EMP, and go back to pretending the system can't fail. But you're different. You see the cracks, you understand the risks, and now you know exactly what to do when the lights don't come back on. Remember, you don't rise to the level of your gear, you fall to the level of your training and mindset. What you do today decides if you're the one waiting in line for stale bread or the one feeding your family while the world scrambles. If this video gave you even one strategy you didn't think about, hit that like button. It tells YouTube this content matters, and it pushes it to more people who need it before it's too late. Drop a comment below. What's the one prep you're focusing on this week? I read every single one, and your insights help this community grow stronger. And if you're serious about staying 2 steps ahead, subscribe and hit the bell icon. Next week's video covers 7 EMP-proof devices that still work when everything else is dead. Until then, stay calm, stay dangerous, and remember, preparedness isn't fear, it's freedom. I'll see you in the next one.